Most people don't realize how quickly we jump to conclusions about other people's private lives. Psychology explains why we try to read hidden signals, even when those signals are unreliable. And this curiosity often says more about us than about the person we're observing. By the end of this discussion, you'll understand why it's nearly impossible to accurately judge someone's sexual history from the outside, what sexual inactivity actually means from a psychological and biological perspective, and how prolonged periods without sex can affect emotions, confidence, and well-being. More importantly, you'll gain a more respectful and realistic way of thinking about intimacy, choice, and human behavior. Let's start by addressing a crucial truth. Sexual activity is deeply personal. There is no visible marker that reliably tells you whether a woman has been sexually active or not. Many so-called signs are actually misinterpretations of emotional states, personality traits, or life circumstances. When people believe they can spot sexual inactivity, they are often projecting cultural myths rather than observing real psychological patterns. Sexual inactivity simply means a person has not engaged in sexual activity for a period of time. That period varies widely between individuals. For some, it may be weeks. For others, months or even years. This can happen by choice, circumstance, health, emotional readiness, or personal values. There is no universal timeline, and there is no normal frequency that applies to everyone. From a biological perspective, the human body is responsive to patterns. When sexual activity decreases for a long time, certain hormonal and physiological changes may occur. In women, this can include shifts in libido, changes in natural lubrication, or differences in pelvic muscle tone. These changes are not visible from the outside, and they do not define someone's desirability, femininity, or emotional health. Emotionally, sexual inactivity can sometimes influence confidence, mood, or stress levels. But here's the important part. These emotional changes look very similar to what happens during periods of stress, grief, burnout, or major life transitions. A woman who seems reserved, cautious, or less expressive sexually is not necessarily sexually inactive. She may simply be protecting her boundaries or navigating something personal. This is where many misunderstandings begin. People often assume that a lack of sexual openness equals lack of experience. Psychology shows that the opposite can be true. Individuals who are emotionally aware and self-respecting may actually be more selective and reserved, especially if they value emotional safety over external validation. Another commonly misinterpreted behavior is discomfort discussing sexual topics. Some people equate sexual confidence with loudness, flirtation, or explicit conversation. In reality, sexual confidence often looks quiet. A woman who doesn't joke openly about sex or avoid sexualized conversation may simply be private, not inexperienced or inactive. Ask yourself this: do you associate confidence only with outward expression, or can confidence exist internally? Many emotionally grounded people do not feel the need to perform or prove anything. Their sense of self is stable, and they engage only when they feel safe and respected. There is also the assumption that disinterest in casual sex signals sexual inactivity. Psychology tells us this is another false shortcut. Desire is context-dependent. A woman may have a healthy libido, but no interest in situations that feel rushed, unsafe, or emotionally disconnected. This is not a lack of desire, it is selective desire. When sexual inactivity does occur over long periods, the brain adapts. Neurochemicals associated with arousal and bonding, such as dopamine and oxytocin, are influenced by emotional and physical intimacy. Reduced stimulation can lower sexual motivation temporarily, much like any habit that fades when it is not practiced. This doesn't mean desire disappears permanently. Interestingly, some people experience the opposite effect. After long periods of abstinence, desire can resurface intensely when emotional connection is reintroduced. This variation reminds us that human sexuality is not mechanical. It is emotional, contextual, and deeply individual. Mental health plays a powerful role here. Anxiety, depression, chronic stress, and low self-esteem can all reduce interest in sex. From the outside, this might look like sexual inactivity, but the root cause is emotional overload, not lack of attraction or ability to connect. There is also the issue of body autonomy. Some women choose sexual inactivity intentionally. Religious beliefs, personal healing, past trauma, or a focus on personal growth can lead someone to step away from sexual relationships. This choice can be empowering rather than limiting. When society labels sexual inactivity as something to be detected or judged, it creates pressure and shame. Psychology shows that shame around sexuality often leads to emotional withdrawal, not connection. Healthy intimacy grows in environments of respect, curiosity, and consent. Let's talk about physical signs, because this is where myths become most harmful. Things like posture, eye contact, clothing choices, or shyness are often misread as sexual signals. In reality, these traits are shaped by personality, culture, and upbringing. Introversion, for example, has nothing to do with sexual experience. Even confidence itself is situational. A woman may feel confident at work but reserved in romantic settings. She may be expressive with friends and quiet around strangers. None of this reveals her sexual history. It only reveals how safe she feels in that moment. Extended sexual inactivity can sometimes lead to emotional loneliness. Humans are wired for connection, not just sexual contact. Touch, affection, and emotional closeness regulate the nervous system. When these are missing, a person may feel disconnected or irritable. But again, these feelings are common in many life situations and are not diagnostic. One surprising insight from psychology is that intimacy does not begin with sex. It begins with emotional attunement. Shared experiences, conversation, laughter, and trust activate the same bonding systems in the brain. This means a fulfilling connection can exist even during periods without sexual activity. For women who want to reawaken their sexual life after inactivity, the process is gradual. The brain responds best to safety, novelty, and self-compassion. Rushing or forcing desire often backfires. Desire grows when pressure is removed. Self-care plays a major role here. Physical movement, stress reduction, emotional expression, and body awareness all support hormonal balance and confidence. When the body feels safe and valued, desire often follows naturally. Communication is equally important. Honest conversations with a partner about comfort levels, fears, and expectations create emotional intimacy. This emotional safety is often what reignites physical closeness. It's also important to acknowledge that intimacy has many forms. Holding hands, cuddling, shared routines, and emotional presence are powerful regulators of well-being. Sexual activity is only one expression of closeness, not the definition of intimacy. Some women may remain sexually inactive for long periods and still live deeply fulfilling lives. Personal goals, creativity, friendships, and self-growth can provide meaning and joy. Sexual activity is a choice, not an obligation or a measure of worth. Here's a question worth reflecting on. Why do we feel the need to categorize or label others based on our assumptions about their private lives? Often, it comes from our own uncertainty, curiosity, or cultural conditioning, rather than genuine understanding. The healthiest perspective is this: you cannot tell someone's sexual history by observing their behavior, and you do not need to. Respecting privacy, choice, and individuality leads to better relationships and deeper emotional intelligence. In the end, sexual inactivity is not a flaw, a signal, or a secret to uncover. It is a state that can change, remain, or evolve depending on the person's life and values. What truly matters is emotional health, autonomy, and mutual respect. If this perspective challenged the way you thought about intimacy or human behavior, take a moment to reflect on it. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments if you feel comfortable. And if you value thoughtful discussions about psychology and human connection, support the channel by liking and subscribing. Understanding people begins with understanding ourselves.